I'll start by, I really do want to reach out to the families and the friends of our sailors and Marines, those people that you reach out and touch every day through the work that you do. Thanks for the support. Thanks for you getting our story out, and please let them know that we truly appreciate their support. The thoughts, the prayers, the cards, the letters. It's kind of evident in what we do every day that we've got tremendous support back there. And it's really important, and it's important that we stay linked with them, and you really help us do that. So thanks to you guys for what you do. And the other one that I'd say thanks to, and you can convey this for me if you will, is thanks to our families back there. They carry as much of this load as we do, and anything you do to just thank them for us, they really do keep us. They keep the home fires burning. They keep things going where we're allowed to have the opportunity to do what we do. So, again, my appreciation to all of the Camp Pendleton, Los Angeles, and San Diego areas for the support for the Marines and sailors, because it does make a difference. So thanks. We're about 75 days into this now, and I'll tell you, I talked very highly about the team that we had put together back at Camp Pendleton starting last August, September. And I'll tell you, it has turned out to be every bit as strong a team as I told you it was in the beginning. Our coalition partners, we're made up of UK, Danes, and US and Estonians here on this one staff. And I'll tell you what, they've worked tremendously hard. We've got 10 nations that are part of this coalition out here in RC Southwest. And it's really just a privilege to serve beside all of these great soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I will tell you, things were better when we got here than we expected they would be. I think that's a lot to do with the guys that have gone before us and over the course of several years, but they've really set us up very well. And I will tell you that progress has continued by the good folks that we've got out here. And I'm going to give you some good examples, and then I'll end up by telling you I don't want to paint you an overly rosy picture, because the Helmand province particularly is still a dangerous area, particularly in some places. But I hope to show you over the course of the next few minutes that there's a lot of calls for optimism out here, and less calls for negative thoughts. But up front, in terms of the insurgents, I would tell you I think that they're off balance. They're still committed to their cause, and they still do cause trouble for us in some areas. There's still plenty of fighting going on a day-to-day basis, but they're off balance. They haven't had the opportunity to execute the plans that they've worked on. They haven't had the opportunity to infiltrate all the lethal aid that they need. They've had a very poor year in terms of being able to collect money from poppy profits, because they've had a very poor poppy season. And but I will tell you, the key thing that's been is the work of the coalition forces here in really sprinting over the course of the last 75 days to keep these guys off balance and not let them get into the fighting season on their terms. So that's what I attribute most of it to. The governance in the area is improving. I can give you several examples of that, and one of them is the fact that just since we've been here, we've had 3 district elections, 3 district community council elections, one of them in Garmsir, one of them in Sangin, and one of them in Nari Siraj, the most recent one. Just to give you a couple of facts and figures on those, Nari Siraj is still the most kinetic district in Afghanistan, and they just finished their district community council elections. Had over 4,000 people turn out for the elections, and over 1,100 of those that voted were women. In Sangin, we had about 3,500 turnout, and in Sangin district, they elected 5 women to their district center council. So I think that starts to paint a little bit of picture that things are working. There's a growing confidence, I think, through these elections and through some of the actions that are being taken in terms of getting judges and getting the rule of law up and moving. There's a growing confidence in the people in their government. I won't tell you that they're all flocking around now ready to sign on completely and be completely committed. There are a lot of people still keep one foot in each camp just to make sure they're hedging their bets, but we see the confidence growing not only in their governance, but it's also growing in their Afghan national security forces. And that really happens to be one of the things that we notice first, where we've got ANSF and where they're doing a pretty good job. We get a lot of reflections from the public that they're getting more and more confident. One of the things that recently happened that's had a tremendous impact out here, far more than I ever anticipated it could have, was the signing of the Strategic Partnership Agreement. That was far more huge than we could even imagine out here. For us, it was just kind of an event, but once we started listening to the Helmandis talk about this, that right there really to them marked the fact that even though we're going to reduce forces, even though we're going to transition to the Afghans, not only in security but also in governance, that marked a high water mark for them that they're not going to be left this time. And I think General Allen did a great job of explaining that when he was in Chicago. But it really has had more of an impact out here in Helmand than I ever expected it would, and a great cause for some positive reflections. Kind of continuing on, we've got the ANSF moving into the lead across the province. They will be pretty much in the lead and us in a support role by the time we get later into the fall. That's a little faster than we even anticipated, but with the strength that they've got, with some of the capabilities they now have developed, we think that they're ready to step out on that limb while we're still strong enough to provide them the support that they might need. The Army is doing very well across the board. And that's really because they're the most mature of the forces. They've been in existence now since 2009, although they were only a single brigade at that point in time. Now we've got a 3-brigade corps that has some fairly strong leadership all across the top echelons, still working to develop the mid-level and some of the lower-level leadership, but all in all coming together very nicely with the ANA, and they're proving their capabilities and the capability to get out and not only find and fight the insurgents, but also the capability to move amongst the people and really give them a little more peace of mind, a little more confidence in what they're doing. The police is a work in progress. The guys before us did a brilliant job. General Tulin and Tumef did a brilliant job of doing the recruiting, got the numbers up where the numbers need to be, and now it's our turn to work to really professionalize. These guys are out doing their jobs, but now it's just a continuing effort of trying to professionalize them, move them beyond the point of being a paramilitary force and move them into being more of a community-based police force. That's going to take time. That won't happen overnight, but that's okay. We've got a little time. So I would tell you I'm not unhappy with where the Afghan National Security Forces are right now. Another interesting thing that just happened is we had 5 more districts that will be entering the transition phase that will start off in July. We have the Dishu and Washir provinces, Washir and Dishu districts, which really we don't have a whole lot of forces in, but they're not reflecting much trouble either. Nari Siraj, again, the most kinetic. The decision was made by the President of Afghanistan to go ahead and put it in transition. So that'll be a work in progress. Garmsur and Regikana, the one down south, will also enter tranche 3 a little later on. That kind of brings our total to 9 of the 14 districts that will be in the transition process. The entire province of Nimruz, as you know, went in tranche 2. And that's doing very well on its own out there as well right now too. before I stop, I'll tell you that it's, again, I don't want it to sound like everything out here is rosy. It is, there is still a lot of fighting going on. There's still a lot of challenges. There will be some setbacks, but that's okay. I think we're getting to the point now where we're seeing the ANSF, when they have a setback, we're seeing them step up and they recover very quickly, even from some fairly spectacular attacks. We've had a couple of those, and interestingly enough, the rebound on both of the spectacular attacks that we had were handled internally by the ANSF, and in a lot of cases, in both cases, they were directed at the police, and in both cases, we saw the Army fill in and come in to backstop some of the issues at some of the checkpoints and police stations that were attacked. So even though it remains kinetic in many ways, and there remains to be a lot of there's still a lot of doubters, and but we're seeing a shift in that, and some of the confidence grow. I would tell you, I think probably just to wrap up, we're seeing their doubts turn into hope, and then we're seeing the hope turn into confidence. So that's kind of where we stand right now, and I think I'll stop right there and give you all a chance at it, if that's okay.
All right, Mark, you want to go ahead and start?
Yep.
General, as I understand the numbers, we're going to be looking at about 11,000 Marines that are in Afghanistan now, coming home within 4 or 5 months, leaving somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 Marines in Afghanistan. Where are those Marines going to be operating? Who will they be, and will it be more special ops kinds of forces?
No, and you know I'm not going to talk specific numbers because I get in a lot of trouble when I do that. So I'll let you.
Are out there publicly.
That's fine. I'm not the one that put them out there, so that means somebody else can get in trouble, not me. But you know your numbers are probably I would say ballpark numbers, but those decisions in all cases still aren't firm yet. They're getting firm, but they're not firm yet. So for me to quote numbers is really a little, not only is it a little out of my lane, it's also probably a little early because we could still see some changes. Where will they operate? They'll operate really throughout the same province. There's going to be a couple of different ways that we employ them, though. You know, this will center up, and let me give you a little longer answer to your question. The mission is not changing, the mission's evolving. We're evolving into a security force assistance role. And that's no secret. That's been out there for a long time. That's been the design. And we will have security force assistance teams with all of the CANDACs, you know, the battalion levels with the Army. We'll have police assistance teams with all of the districts. And that's true not only in the Task Force Leatherneck, which is the Marine battle space. That's also true in the Task Force Helmand, which is our UK held kind of the center in Lashkargah, Nez, and Nadali. We're using the same model throughout the entire province. So that will put a pretty good spread across all the districts and with all the units in an advise and assist and continue to do some of the training. In some cases, the Corps is developing right now, is building a 4th Brigade that will come online probably September, October will be a new brigade introduced into the area. And we'll do some partnering with them, which is a little more than just a security force assistance team. We'll partner with them because they're going to be relatively new, and they will only really have the basic skill set. So we'll invest a little heavier in them with some of the Marines that we have as well. And but quite frankly, Mark, we're going to still be covering the north with part of those Marines, and we're going to cover the south. The centerpiece again, Lashkargah, Nadali, and Nari Siraj will still be covered by Task Force Helmand. So we're going to be covering really the basic same ground with less people, but in a different role and different mission. We'll also have enough people to provide. We'll also have enough forces to provide the quick reaction forces should they be needed, and we'll also still be capable of doing some ops out maybe beyond where the Afghans are really capable of reaching if we need to, and along our seams, particularly with RC South and some up with RC West as well. So even though we're going to be a fair amount smaller, I think we're still going to be plenty powerful.
Thank you.
Sir, I was just trying to look up Nari Siraj. Is that where Gurganus is and the British forces are?
It is. Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, you said, sir, that that's been the most kinetic area. I thought I recalled last year when I was there, early last year, the most kinetic areas were farther to the north. Or I'm wondering how you're defining the most kinetic area, or has there been a shift where the violence has died down enough in Sangin and Musakala that Gurganus is the biggest hot spot now?
Yeah, Nari Siraj is consistently the most kinetic week by week. And we define that by the number of significant events that take place in there, you know, which are small arms exchanges, IEDs, or anything else that you know that reaches the level of being a significant event. And frankly, we're causing a lot of those significant events by the way that the British forces are working that area, and they're out and about in a lot of places that on a regular basis. So it keeps the enemy having to take some action. So quite frankly, that the number of SIGACs are high there. That doesn't mean that they're that effective, but it still means that it's more kinetic than most of the other places. And to answer your question, Sangin is really turning out right now to be a really good news story. That's probably outside of Marja and outside of Lashkargah. Sangin is probably embracing the development of the government and accepting of the ANSF as well as any place in Afghanistan.
Could I just follow up? What was the key? I know there was a lot of heavy combat at one point, but
yeah, it was. If you recall, there was a pretty big fight through Sangin last year. Same fight that went all the way up to Kajaki, and I'll tell you, I think the people there have just kind of they've kind of made a transition. There were some other things that helped. The paving of that stretch of 611 that runs from Highway 1 up through Sangin, which is where the pavement ends presently, but we'll pick that back up here before much longer. That really was a turning point too, because it offered a freedom of movement that they've not seen in a long time, and with the attempts of any of the insurgents to do any damage in and along Route 611 has met with quite a bit of response from the local people, and they really do help us kind of keep that piece more secure than it's ever been. And now the governance is taking hold with the elections that they've just held. Again, I won't tell you that every day is quiet in Sangin, but it's certainly a change from last year. If I'd have thought about it beforehand, I'd have run a little bit of the number comparison between last year and what we have there. But we can do that later. But it's a good news story. Musakala is not as good a news story. Musakala is still a trouble spot, but then again, you know, you've got to get through a lot of the problems that we do have in the Upper Gurganus Valley. That's still a trouble spot. We're working on it, and we're going to pay it some special attention here before long, and we'll see if we can't, as we get, one of the reasons that Musakala, Nowzad, and Kajaki are not as well off is we haven't had, we're now moving the ANSF into a new set that will put them in the lead up north as well. So it's been primarily a Marine focus area, and I think as we get the ANSF up there and continue to work with them, we're going to see, we should see things change quite a bit in Musakala and also all the way up into Kajaki. So Nowzad's really not doing bad now. We have some problems. We have some problems along the roads that get us into each one of those areas. But more and more, as we're getting the ANSF up there along those roads and patrolling those roads, the incidents are becoming fewer. Again, I won't say that it's great yet, but it's a whole lot better than it has been.
Thank you.
General, I wanted to ask you about the green on blue killings. 21 throughout the country, 15% of coalition losses. You had one recently, a young man named Hewling. General Tulin had a couple while he was there. What is your take on why this is happening? Is it ideological? Are they sneaking in and continuing the fight? Or is this just a series of barrack-style disputes that end up in gunplay? And how corrosive is that to the morale as you try to create a partnership between your people and the Afghans? That's
a great question. We actually have had one in the Marine Corps, but I will tell you we have had 5 in total because 4 of them were with UK soldiers. Why do they do it? Tony, there's as many reasons as you can sit here and name. I would tell you we do know that some of them may have been ideologically, was the background for it. Some of it may have been that when they went home on leave, some of their families may have been threatened. We don't know all of the reasons why. And we do think that some of them are just that, barracks disputes that just turn violent very quickly. Conflict resolution over here is not one of the stronger skills, so it's one of the things that we work hard on as well with our Marines. Now, is it corrosive? Yeah, it certainly is to a little bit of a point, but I got to tell you what, it's also strengthened the relationship between us as well, and there's a lot of good things come out of those tragedies. The leadership of the ANSF is committed to finding potential troublemakers more so than they have ever been, because they understand that this is really damaging to the relationship. It's also that they see the tragedy in it as well. I've seen General Maluk has attended every ramp ceremony that we've had for one of our heroes, and he's attended all the vigils for the UKs when he is in town. And I've seen him with just pure tears in his eyes as he passes his condolences and as he just expresses his sorrow and his embarrassment that these things even happened. I'll tell you, the day that our young lad was killed, we had a ramp ceremony for him. General Maluk sat in his truck. He couldn't even get out of his truck. I had to finally go back to his truck before he would get out. He was so embarrassed over the event. So I will tell you, they care. And so it is really, and that has led them to take even greater action on their part to prevent these. But there's another side of this as well. There's a lot of people that say, okay, how do you prevent these? And the way you prevent these, I think, because we're not going to back off of what we're doing. I mean, we're doing things the right way, and being with the Afghans is exactly where we need to be. And the next thing I'd remind you too is, 21 sounds like a lot, and it is. I mean, one's too many. But I will tell you, day in and day out, right here in this province, we've got hundreds or thousands of Marines and soldiers and partners living and working beside these guys every day. So this, let's put it in context of, if you were try to run the numbers on how many people we have that eat, sleep, and work beside the Afghans every day to the number of these, then the number is not quite as daunting as it is when you just kind of look at what the percentages of people killed are. The greatest defense against this is respect, and then out of respect for each other grows trust. And I will tell you, once you grow the trust between the Afghans and between our forces, it's as strong as it is between any other two forces you've ever seen. And we've seen that time and time again with things that, with the way they react when we have something go wrong and the way we react when they have something go wrong. So while it's every one of them's a tragedy, there are a lot of strengthening of the relationships and therefore strengthening of ways to mitigate the opportunities for more green on blues to happen over the course of time. That's a long answer, but I just feel it's important to kind of get that, so to keep it in context with what's really come out of these tragedies.
Thank you.
Hey, General, can you talk about the what you're seeing contractor-wise across your area? If you're seeing an increase, are they taking on particular tasks, and do you envision that growing in the next months ahead?
Define contractor for me, Gidget.
Well, I'm thinking either American or Afghan or other nationals coming in and supporting your force with security, perhaps.
Yeah.
Logistics, other areas.
Okay, yeah, because you got a whole bunch of different kind of contractors over here, those that build things and, the Afghan contractors. But yes, there has been an increase, and we are using more U.S. Well-vetted, well-badged, well-experienced individuals as part of our security forces, particularly on some of our installations like this one and down at Dwyer. They fill a key role, and quite frankly, the good news is that frees up a Marine, and they're very competent. We've had no trouble out of them, and I don't expect it. We might expand it some, but we've about reached the level of what we need, and quite frankly, they're just another member of the team.
Can you talk about roughly how many you have there in your area? Are they going to be taking out any tasks?
I can't even tell you exactly how many we got, but we have a lot of them here. I won't even hazard to guess right now. If we need that number, I'll get Colonel Upton to get back to you with a better estimate than I got off the top of my head. I don't expect it to grow a lot more. We may do some more things with them. We use contractors for other things too. I mean, we've got contractors that work in contractors and civilians that work in our civil affairs, our C9 shop. Experts that we bring in, some agricultural experts. We've got a hydrologist. I mean, we got some of these people actually work for the regional platform. Some of them are experts that we brought in with us. So I mean, we've got contractors doing several things in some of the training roles where we work with the Afghans over in our joint schools that we run over with them. That's a mixture of Marines and retired military that bring a lot of skill sets to the table. So yeah, and even some of our intelligence analysts are civilians and contractors that we hire on to help us with some of that work as well, particularly when we need their unique skills.
Hi, General. Tony stole my question, so I'll just build on it.
Okay.
Basically, I just wanted to see what adjustments are being made, given that this summer, like you said, you'll be moving more into an advisory role, working closer as far as assisting security forces. So what kind of adjustments are being made in light of all these attacks? And also, what kind of what's been done to be able to build up trust among Marines of their Afghan partners?
Well, okay. Let me. I think I can do that without going into a repeat. Adjustments that are being made, quite frankly, it really does. A little bit of it is in training, and that training takes on two parts of it. The first one is the cultural training that we do. We reemphasize much of the cultural training. Because this is very much a society of honor, and I don't need to go into a lesson on the Afghan culture. You've read and understand very much about that. But it is reiterating it is reiterating some of the cultural sensitivities, and particularly sensitivities to their religion, which is, I mean, immensely important to each and every Afghan. That the chance to talk to our Marines and rework some of that training is very important. The other thing that we really work with them on is just situational awareness, because paying attention sometimes, you can notice when things aren't just right, and the time to try to resolve disputes is really before they start. But it's also to be aware. But in terms of what major shifts we've made, none. I mean, we think we've got this about right. And so it really does boil down to building the relationships based on trust and respect. And that works two ways. And I will tell you, it's, you know, with all the work that we do with our guys there, that's what pays the most dividends.
And so there's been no added extra security measures put into place given the number of attacks this year?
No, we've not changed the construct of what we plan to use as SFATs and the ones that we've got at all. And we don't plan to add any to them. We've built our teams heavy enough, large enough to have the skill sets that we need throughout, you know, to do the advising and training role, and also to provide themselves the internal security and also provide security when they're doing things with the Afghans, you know, when they're doing vehicle movements and things like that, to ensure that we've got enough Marines to do all of the driving, to provide, you know, the manning the weapon systems and to have the size force that we need. So it's we're carrying on with the program we've got.
Thank you.
General, how many FOBs are Marines on today? And can you talk a little bit about the differences now that you've been on ground for 4 months in the coin operation from what you did in Iraq to what you're doing in Afghanistan now? I think the public can kind of understand that comparative a little bit.
Okay. Well,
last time too. Thank you.
I'll give you two. Right now, if you recall, when we started looking at shutting down FOBs, COPs, patrol bases, whatever, you know, they're all different sizes, shapes, and variety. The ones that we started out, I think General Toolin had about 270 at one point in time that had built up over time. Don't quote me exactly on that, but I think that was about the figure. Today, if I'm not mistaken, we're down to less than 70 that have either been transferred to the ANSF, either the Army or to the police, or closed and demilled altogether. And by the fall, if we continue on the pace we're going, we'll be down just over 30. I would say 32 is the number we're aiming at. But that number could fluctuate too if we need to stay in a place longer, or if we find out we can close some even sooner than that. So that's kind of where we are with the base closure and transfers. So that's gone along very smoothly. And there's a reason why we need to move out on this. Number one, it does help us get the ANSF set, get them in the right places to take the lead for security. And the other thing is our engineering assets won't be as strong later on as they have been. So we need to do some of the demill now while we still have the engineer strength to get these bases taken down. What was the other question? I'm brain dead.
Just kind of your view from the top, if you will, of the primary differences you see today between the coin ops in Iraq and Afghanistan.
What we're doing is very similar in many ways. It's very similar to transitions that we made in Iraq as we shifted more and more to a security force assistance role. We've got new names for them. We call them security force assistance teams now. Back then we called them MITs, PITs, and BITs, and so we've renamed it. But we're doing very much of the same thing. Philosophy and the way we go about it's very much the same. The training, the transition, training of the Army we did first, and then we gradually worked into the police as we got the police numbers up. That's going on very much like it did in Iraq. But I'll tell you, it doesn't all work just like it did in Iraq. I mean, there you could find the tribal leader, and once that tribal leader had made the commitment to support the government and support the security that was being provided by the Iraqi security forces, then pretty much you rolled an entire tribe at the time, because those people listened very well to one guy. A whole lot different dynamic here, and it requires you really to work almost village by village. They don't have the same tribal structure that we found in Iraq. So it requires a lot more effort in terms of key leader engagement and finding the right leaders to get them to support the security efforts and programs that we've got. But it's working.
Thank you.
The other thing that we didn't do in Iraq, we didn't necessarily withdraw while we were still in the middle of a fight. We didn't necessarily transition completely a fight. And I'm talking about out in Al Anbar. I won't talk about the rest of Iraq because I wasn't in the rest of Iraq. But in Al Anbar, we had reached where kinetics were very, very low. Now we're reducing forces. While kinetics are still going on, and in addition to that, we're also recovering equipment at the same time. So I mean, we got it. So I would tell you this is a little more complex than some of the things we saw in Iraq, but still very doable.
General, I'm trying to understand some of the mechanics of the shift to more of an advising the security forces role, because I think back to my trips in 2010, 2011, every single patrol I went on with Marines had Afghans, with them. There were also the embedded training teams, the police advisory teams. So I know the Marines have been, quote, advising security forces all along. So on the ground, what big change can we expect later this summer and fall?
All of those patrols, most all of those patrols that you've witnessed and you've been on, were primarily planned by Marines and then executed in conjunction with the what we're talking about here as we transition to the lead is the Iraqis in their set and how they plan to execute security, with the Iraqis in the lead of the planning, them developing the plans, and then us supporting their plans.
The Afghans, sir?
Yes. That's the major difference. That's what it means by getting them in the lead. It's not just getting them out with a Marine on patrol. It's us working with them and their planning skills, them developing the plans, and then them executing their plans, leading their plans, and then we'll provide the support that they need, rather than us designing the plans and then the Afghans executing plans that we've developed. That's the major difference, and that's a key difference.
So the Afghans aren't just tagging along. They won't be just tagging along, observing. They're going to have more of the crucial role. Absolutely,
and in many places, you'll have Afghan units at smaller levels that won't have any Marines with them at all. And we already have some of these units that are planning and executing their own operations. We've got one brigade down south that's already released its plan for how it's going to fight all the way till September. And that's completely and all they're getting from us is some of the limited support that we can provide should they get in trouble. Medevacs, and if they get in serious trouble, a QRF if they were to need it, maybe precision fires. But by and large, they're already planning and conducting their own operations. We see that out in the west as well in Nimruz. With one of our Kandaks has been working out there unpartnered and doing independent operations well before we got here. So, I mean, we're already seeing some of that, but the key piece is that these are their operations, and we're in a supporting role to them instead of being in the lead and having them kind of just go along with us.
Can you say which area in the south you were referring to?
The whole South. Everything south of Lashkargah.
Okay, thank you.
General, I interviewed the widow of one of your Marines killed recently, Fankhauser, April 22nd, EOD. She received a number of condolence letters, which she treasures and she keeps in an album. Panetta, Allen, Mattis, political leaders. Yours was the only one that was entirely handwritten, which gave it an extra significance to her. It was the first one she pointed out. Is that your overall policy, that when you write those, you make sure they're handwritten rather than surely an adjutant could type it up for you? Is that your policy, and if so, why?
Each one of these letters I write is, number one, they're hard to write. It's probably the one thing I do in a day when you don't want to knock on my doors when I'm writing one of those letters, because it really does. You kind of have to get in. You kind of just need to be left alone a little bit with your thoughts when you write one of these. And I just can't see sending a family member, a mother or a wife or a dad. And I'm not poo-pooing anybody that types letters, because some of these other people are extremely busy people, and but to me I just handwrite them.
Thanks.
Hey, sir, there have been a couple incidents, and we saw this in Iraq. Marines, service members getting electrocuted, various scenarios. Can you talk about any measures that you've taken or changes in policies, procedures to reduce that? And on the broader issue of, keeping the force safe, for these kind of issues, any new equipment or systems like, enhanced helmets and that sort of thing that your Marines are going to be getting to sort of help them remain safe as they go on with their operations? Well,
we've General Waldhauser has asked, and General Toolin worked after the last Marine was that was before we got set in the battle space. It has taken some looks at having our Marine Corps Warfighting Lab and our Marine Corps Systems Command to look at potentially some maybe modifications to vehicles. I mean, that sounds real simple. It's not necessarily really simple to do something that would deflect wires. I've spent a fair amount of time out, and yeah, there's a lot of opportunities. The biggest thing that we've done is most of these units are relatively in the same area a lot of the time. So one of them is to make sure that we understand where there are hazards. And I think we put a lot more emphasis and a lot more effort on that now. And even in some of the patrol briefs that I've set on movements, they will talk about where there are hazards that they need to pay particular attention to, and you'll hear them calling those hazards on the radio. But you can't build a vehicle that's safe from everything, and the best defense against it is a really good awareness, people looking out. People watching where they're going, and you've got a driver, you've got an A driver or a vehicle commander, and you've got a guy in the turret in most cases. One of the key is that those guys are talking to each other and they're looking for these types of hazards the same way that they look for signs of an IED. That's the greatest defense that we've got, even against IEDs, with all the millions of dollars worth of equipment we've got. The very best piece of gear we got's the guy with good pair of eyes.
And then just along that, any other safety equipment that Marines are getting to just keep them safe as they go about their missions?
No, I'll tell you, I think we're very well equipped. I don't know of anything else that we've got coming down the pike that's safety equipment or ballistic equipment that we've got. There's been so much improvement in that over the last 10 years that I think we've got that down about right. The Marine Corps has done a very good, Marine Corps, and I think all the services have, but the Marine Corps has done a great amount of work. They've made some modifications on the vehicles that improve them a little bit, but by and large, our guys are I think, are very well equipped.
Thank you, sir.
General, going back to our conversation about the attacks by Afghan troops on U.S. troops, I wanted to ask, you mentioned that it strengthened the relationship and that the Afghans seem to be being more vigilant and finding the troublemakers. Can you give me some examples of what they're doing specifically? What's changed? What are they?
Yeah, I'll give you.
What signs are we seeing that they're doing this?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of examples of things that they're doing that don't sound like a whole lot here, but they're a whole lot to you maybe, but they really are huge. One of the things that they do is they're going back and kind of rescreening and revetting people, in some cases by where they come from, because there's some areas there are parts of areas of this country that really are a little more insurgent active. So they really do go back and do some vetting and screening. And now one of the new things that they've done is a little better job of reference systems. I mean, before you can come in the ANSF, either the Army or the police, you've got to have, and I think it's two of the elders actually vouch for you. And these guys take on some of the responsibility for your actions. And so, I mean, that's a pretty strong step in a society that really is honor-based. One of the other things they do too is they take a look at they are really screening very hard anyone who goes on leave and then stays away for an extended period of time, or anybody particularly who is traveling to Pakistan on their leave. Some of them do have families in Pakistan, but they watch these guys a little more carefully. So they are taking some steps that are really huge in terms of their culture. There's some other things they do. I can't remember the whole list of what they are now, but they've really taken this to heart all the way from the very top in MOD and at the Minister of Interior as well. They've really taken this problem on head on.
And when did they start, like for instance, having two elders vouch for someone? When did they start putting in some of these measures?
I don't know exactly. I can probably find that out, but that's
in the last few months or so.
Yeah, I would say that, and they may have had some people vouch for them before, but now I think that they tightened up on who can vouch for you and understand that there's a little more responsibility going. You're going to bear a little more of the responsibility for vouching for this guy.
And my second question is, as you know, France has announced by the end of the year that they're withdrawing all their forces. I just wanted to see what kind of challenges with all these developments happening, what kind of challenges this will present for U.S. troops specifically.
You're out of my line. You're out of my lane, because it doesn't impact me at all. Doesn't impact us out here at all. That's a question better left for General Allen and some of the guys where it really does impact. But it has zero bearing on us out here.
All right, General, we're showing 51 minutes on the clock here. I know that your time is precious, so I want to devote these last 10 minutes to anything else that you want to re-emphasize or any kind of closing statement on your part, sir.
No, y'all give me, I think I've probably covered the key things. There are people who wring their hands out here, and they look at their calendar and go, hey, we got to finish this up, because 2014's coming. I tell you, we have a little different attitude out here. These guys go, hey, we only have, some people in some forums you hear said, hey, we only have 2.5 years to close out you know, everything we're doing here, kind of. And at least on the military side, and it, you know, and in the shape and form that we're in right now. Quite frankly, we look at 2014 and the end of 2014, and my guys do this routinely and say, we have 2.5 years left to make an impact. And we look at that and say, there's a lot of opportunities, and that's probably, Mark, one of the things that we've taken out of Iraq is just how much you can get done in a year period or a 2-year period. So our glass stays half full with the timeline we're on, and I think there's an awful lot of goodness and an awful lot of things that we can still impact in a very positive way But I'll tell you, it is really refreshing to watch the confidence begin to grow in some of the areas. It's refreshing to watch the chief of police and the provincial governor here start to take on corruption and start to remove officials for some things that are considered corruption. It's really you just get a sense that things are moving, and they're moving in the right direction, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But I was asked a question the other day, and that how do you break the back of an insurgency? And my response to him, I think, and I've had a chance to reflect on what I said without a lot of thought, and then I've had a chance to think on it, and the more I've thought about it, the more I think I gave him the right answer, is we can't break the back of this insurgency. I'm not even sure that the guys who break the back of this insurgency are the Afghan security forces. I think the people who break the back of this insurgency are the people. And we're starting to see through their rejection of some of the Taliban demands and the Taliban coercions to come back to the Taliban and to reject Jaroa, we're starting to see the Taliban be rejected. You know, is it fragile? Yeah, absolutely it is. It's still fragile, and it will be fragile. But those are the ones that are going to break the back of this insurgency, and I think that it's looking very positive in that direction.
All right, John, I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Hey,
Thank you,
my
John.
best wishes to you all. Thanks for taking the time today to kind of get our story.